my name is Francis Arthur Ebona, and today I will do my Science PBA activity about the major organs of the human body. So let's start. So the first part of the body is the brain. So the brain has 5 parts, which are called lobes. The first one is the frontal lobe. The second one is the cerebral lobe. The next one is the parietal lobe, the temporal lobe, and lastly, the occipital lobe. So on the frontal lobe, it's more on the higher mental function, which is our concentration, our planning, our judgment, our emotional expression, our creativity, and lastly, our inhibition. So in the cerebral lobe, it's more on the motor function, like the eye movement and our orientation. So the next one is the parietal lobe, which is the sensory area and the motor function area. And these parts consists of our sensation of our muscles and our skin. And lastly, our initiation of voluntary muscles. That means our strength. So the next one is the temporal lobe, which has the Broca's area. The Broca's area is our muscles of speech, how we talk, and also our association. Our association area consists of our emotion, our equilibrium, and our short-term memory. The final one, the occipital lobe, is the somatosensory area, the visual area, which is our sight, our auditory area, our hearing, and our wernicles area. So the wernicles area is our language. Like if you're from a type of country which speaks English, then your brain recognizes the words when you grow up. And it all contains it in Wernicke's area. Our visual area is our sight, our image recognition, which is how we memorize things we see, and our image perception. So the somatosensory area, the last one, is our alienation of weight and our feeling of texture and the temperature. Like when you touch hot coffee, you say it's hot, and when you touch ice, you say it's too cold. And that's how the brain works. So that's enough for the brain. Now moving on to our heart. So our heart is made of is actually split into 2. The right part and the left part. Also the upper part and the down part. The down part is called ventricles, and in the 2 parts is the left ventricle and the right ventricle. Same as the atrium. Right atrium and the left atrium. The aorta. But since we don't have the vena cava, which is another vein that sends to the body, let's just pretend. So pretend there's a vena cava. The upper vena cava is called the superior vena cava, while the lower part is the inferior vena cava. So let's not forget that the importance of the heart is to pump oxygenated blood throughout the body, and the unoxygenated blood, which the blood has no air inside it, comes through the vena cava's. So the heart is in between of the lungs, right here. But some people say it's here. So the next one is the lungs. So the lungs' main purpose is to combine blood with oxygen or O2 and give it and put it throughout the body and separate carbon dioxide or CO2 from the blood. So the lungs are made of two pairs. So the parts of the lungs are called lobes. So below the lungs is the largest muscle, and it's called the diaphragm. So the diaphragm's purpose is, well, to separate the lungs from the rest of the body. And I won't forget to tell you that the diaphragm is curved. So when the lungs relax, that's when you inhale, it opens up and lets air in the body. And the diaphragm goes flat. And when you exhale, it makes sure that all the unoxygenated air goes out and the diaphragm goes back to curved. Also, the opening closes. So the third one is the liver. So the liver is the first stop of the blood. So after the blood has received some nutrients and O2 from the heart, the body gotta make sure that it's clean. So the blood's first stop is the liver. So the liver actually cleans blood so that to make sure that no germs enter the body and get us sick. So the liver combines those leftovers of the blood with water and it goes to the bladder. Now you're wondering, what is the bladder? But it actually goes first to the kidneys. The small part right here on the left side below the liver is the gallbladder. So the gallbladder actually collects bile that the liver secretes. It then sends it to the small intestine, which we'll be discussing. And that's why the small intestine actually creates some acid to help digest semi-digested food from the stomach. Right? So the next one is the stomach. So this one is my favorite organ since it keeps food. So the stomach's purpose is to digest food. So lots of you may have heard about the stomach, but didn't you know that the stomach actually burns food by using a type of acid called pepsin? So we'll be discussing pepsin more later because when the food comes down, it then gets into the pepsin. So, but it doesn't get like nothing, like what happens when you put in lava. It's not like that. There's actually some remains. It's to digest food, not to make it disappear out of nowhere. Because after that, it goes to the intestines, which we'll be discussing. So that's all for the stomach. Alright, so it's like this. So the next one is the small intestine. Now you're just wondering, why didn't we go with the large intestine first? So long! is the small intestine. So this is actually how long it is when you took it out. It looks small right there, but it's really large actually. So it's divided into 3 parts. The first layer of the small intestine is the duodenum. So the duodenum gets helps digest with small digestive enzymes coming from the gallbladder and the pancreas. So the middle section of the small intestine is called the jejunum. So the jejunum actually puts food into the ileum by making wave-like contractions. So let me explain to you. So pretend this is the food, but don't actually eat it. So first it goes into our mouth, we chew it, and the saliva makes it soft so that for the body to digest. And then it goes through the esophagus and then goes to the stomach where it's digested. And it goes down to the duodenum. After that, just skip the whole thing. Then it goes to the jejunum, where we are now. So it makes wave-like contractions, which makes it rapid and is very fast. So let's start. That's what it does. So it actually does this. So it squeezes with the muscles of the intestine to do this. And then you're wondering, what if a portion of the food gets separated and it gets left behind? Well, that is not possible, because when it's already digested, the wave-like contractions won't leave anything because it squeezes and spills and makes the food like this. For example, when you put a marble here and you do this, the marble goes very fast. That's what it does, and it leaves no remains, like this. And then it goes to the final part, the ileum, the most longest part of the small intestine. So this part of the intestine absorbs some of the few nutrients from the digested food, and it goes all the way to the large intestine. Now, the large intestine's main purpose is to get water and salt from the parts of the food. And then after that, it goes to the first part of it called the cecum. So the cecum is obviously 3 centimeters and it's pouch-like. The purpose of the cecum is to deliver the digested liquid from the ileum to the colon. So the colon is made of 3 parts. So the food goes through the first part, the ascending colon, then goes to the long part, and the middle one, the transverse colon, and then it lastly goes to the descending colon. After you poop, it goes to the anus, and you have to go to the restroom and you'll poop. That's when all the waste products of the food will go out. So now you're wondering, what happened to the water-like substance from the liver? Well, it obviously went through the kidneys. So when it went through the kidneys started mixing it with the water you drank, and it started to put it into the bladder. So the bladder is a place where it stores urine, which we now call it. So after it gets full, the brain will tell you that you need to go to the restroom and pee. last two major organs of the body are the bones and the muscles. So before that, did you know that you have 275 bones during birth, and when you're an adult, you have 206 bones because the bones fuse together. So the first thing about the bones is that it works as a firm framework for the entire body. The second thing about the bones is that it protects delicate structures such as the heart, the brain, and the lungs. So the third thing about the bone is that it works as a storehouse of calcium. So the types of the bones are the short bones, the long bones, the flat bones, the irregular bones, and lastly the sesamoid bones. So the types of muscles are the skeletal muscles. The skeletal muscles are attached to the bones of our body, and they can be found in our arms, on our legs, on our face, our back, and our chest. They are also a part of voluntary muscles. So the next one, the smooth muscles, which is a involuntary muscle, it actually protects our other internal organs such as our stomach and our intestine. So the last type of bones, the cardiac muscles, which is also another involuntary muscle, actually composes our heart. It also moves so much that it's sending blood pulsing throughout the body. So the thing about muscles is that they're the engines of the body. So without muscles and you only have bones, then you're nothing. You can't move because the brain sends signals, and even though a little move like this, a single muscle team has, tons of muscle teams have to cooperate to create a single movement. So the thing without muscles, that means, without muscles, your bones would just, you'll be lying on the ground if you didn't have muscles. So, but with muscles attached to the bones, you can do stuff like this. So right now, with the help of my muscles, I was able to move my hand. So bye-bye.